Okay, so let's go in game. Let's go in game, and of course, let's start with the big show into Assetto Corsa Competizione version 1.8, and of course, it couldn't be anything else than the amazing BMW M4 GT3. What a car! What a car! Well, what a car indeed. It is. I mean, it barely fits inside the showroom. That thing is big. That thing is really big. It is shorter. It's not as high as the BMW M6. It is as wide, of course, because obviously all the cars go up to the limit of 2 meters and something. But it is even longer. It is even longer, and it is incredible. And I couldn't believe it when we started putting, the data inside the physics engine. So after I put the initial data, I really, wanted to try out the physics and see how the car drives. And I was really skeptical because an even longer car, and going away from the V8 to the straight six, which I always loved the straight six, but straight six V8. 3 liters instead of 4.4 liters, so I was like, meh. Although the data were, watching and reading the matrix, the data were seeming amazing, were looking amazing, but you really want to drive it. And so I went out and started driving, and I was like, no, wait a minute. It's one of those cases where the sum of the data, makes something that is bigger and better than the single data shows you. So everything together works really well. This car is agile, it has a great front end, it has a great rear end stability, the driving feel is so good for the driver, and I believe it's going to be a great protagonist in the series, the real series as well. Because we all know the BOP will come in and hit the car, and it will make it slower than what it actually is. We'll know how it works. This is also one reason why the series is so successful, because all the cars are very, very close in performance. But I think this car is going to get a lot of clients, because I think in BMW they've been smart. Instead of going for full performance, and they did go for full performance, actually the car is really quick, but as you know, the performance can be handicapped by the balance of performance by the BOP. So what they did was make a very friendly package. So the car is really friendly to the driver. It doesn't it helps you stay on top of your performance and or your limits for more time. So you can push and push and push without having to get tired a lot. So you can really stay right at the limit of the cars and take advantage of all the performance that the car can give you without suffering in the meantime. So I think they've been smart. We will see how the car will perform. Obviously, initially they will need to find out how to set up the car and everything, and I'm pretty sure the BOP will hammer it strongly initially. But yeah, we have it on the sim, and it's really amazing. So let's go and have a look right inside the game. Isn't the longer wheelbase of the M4 an issue for hairpins? Actually, this is one of the points that you might feel that the car is a little bit too long, but normally you don't feel it. Let's have a look at the car.
Green light. Go, go, go.
I mean, as usual, wonderful detailing and 3Ds by our artist, as usual. Amazing job everywhere. Tons and tons of detail. Look at this wonderful exhaust here on the side, which is pretty strange that they close this, because obviously they are limiting a little bit the outcome of the hot air from the brakes. But it is like this from this way, and it is asymmetrical from the other way. So it is like that from the other way here. It's a little bit strange. Okay, so. Did you know? Let's go back to the did you know that some cars have fuel screens on the body panels, on close to the to where you are refueling the car. So, for example, for the BMW, we have the actual number of liters. You can also have something similar, I think, to the Ferrari and a couple of other cars. And of course, this thing here is not just you know, simulated or it's a texture, but it's actually working. So if we go back to the fuel here, you can see it already in the background. I can change this, and of course you can see it working already. Yeah, how cool is that, right? And of course it works in real time. If you just start the car, should be go to 61 in a minute. Yep, 61. You see, so it's dynamic, and now you know. All right, so let's do a lap with the car and talk a little bit generically what to expect, not only from the car but also from the physics and so on. Look at how it goes over the curbs now. You see? You see how the car absorbed the curbs. You also saw how you can notice how the car is very agile on turning in, and it still maintains the rear end stability. Very good turn in, rear end stability, so you're not really risking life when you're turning in like that. It's really good. So tires are almost good now, a little bit on the cold side, but still very good. So let's do a lap and have some fun over the curbs. Ah, did you saw that? See how the car absorbs the curbs now. Another great thing of this engine is the amount of torque you have. You can even leave third gear here. Look how the kilometers are raising. You don't even need to downshift. Obviously, you are a bit faster, but sincerely, many times you can just leave the third gear or the fourth gear in, and the car just accelerates. This is one also of the reasons why they've made the gear ratios a little bit too long. But in the end, you know, it practically has a flat torque curve from, like, I don't know, 2,000, 3,000 RPM up to the limiter. It's just flat. It just goes like this. See how the car absorbs the curves. It's also now more predictable when you have some, you know, loss of grip or traction. So you just saw the oversteer there, just a flick of the wrist, of the broken wrist, and you can control the car without big issues. It's still a GT3 car. You need to be a little bit faster than a street car in controlling it, and you need to have smaller steering angles, but it's much more controllable than before. So actually, let's go down to traction control 1. Now that the tires are hot, see how much traction there is. Ah, wonderful. So that obviously, if I'm doing this, I'm losing time, but you still have control, and the car doesn't snap totally out of control. See how it jumps? It bounces but absorbs. So yes, there is more bouncing probably, but it absorbs the heat, and it doesn't lose the grip from the bouncing. Look at this, wonderful. Such a good car, really majestic. Look at that, fantastic. Great. Let's have a look at the replay and explain a couple of things, shall we? So, a little bit of extra talk about the car. Okay, we've lost it here, but again, this is part of, you know, the cold tires right now. You can see that the car is long. Why the car is so long? Why BMW decided to go for such a long car? Long car means also very long under tray. And long under tray means you can work better and have a laminar flow when the air arrives to the diffuser. And more air and more undisturbed air arriving to the diffuser, it means much better and more stable downforce production. And it also means that you don't need as high rear wing angles to produce downforce. You don't suffer for as much speed sensitivity as other cars that might be shorter, and all that makes the car easier to the driver. As you can see, the car is extremely benevolent and very predictable, which is really good thing. I remind you that GT3 series is a client series. GTE on the WEC, these are, you know, actual manufacturers' works cars racing with professional drivers, and professional drivers can obviously be much more precise to their driving, and they are trained to do so, and they can usually ask a far more aggressive car that has better performance. But in GT3 racing we have client driving, which means that we also have drivers that they are not professional, they are gentleman drivers. Still very good drivers, but they don't have all the experience, or maybe they don't have the time to, you know, train themselves as much as the professional drivers. Having a car that it is both fast but also very predictable and benevolent to the driver and doesn't ask for crazy inputs, you know, to be fast, is key for this kind of racing. And that BMW is exactly why it's made in this way. Yes, Emil, it's dropping down because actually the whole car is made in a way that it doesn't provoke crazy oversteers. It's all, as you know, pitch sensitivity. So Emil asks, why when in the BMW we put the rear ride height very high, so high rake, the front aero variation is dropping instead of getting even more front aero balance. So you might have noticed, and you might notice in the future as well, that the next generation of GT3 cars, they try to get more clean air from the rear wing and having possibly less downforce generated by the diffuser. And they try also to make the front end to not be as pitch sensitive as usual. And that is all happening because that is the big problem, okay, with the gentleman drivers. If you are going into a very high speed turn and you release the accelerator, or you even touch the brake a little bit, the whole aero balance moves to the front and makes the car unstable. Gentleman drivers are not so used to deal with that. It is dangerous for them. And so in the new generation of GT3 cars, they try to make the cars less pitch sensitive. So what is happening with this car, for example, is that if you create lots of rake, so very high rear end, very low front end, at some point, instead of getting more and more downforce to the front, the rear wing will start getting lots of fresh air, lots of clean air, and it will generate more downforce. Because obviously, if you have high rake, it means that the rear wing also gets more rake as well, right? Look at how nice this drift goes, and this means that you generate more rear downforce as well, and the car becomes again more stable. All right. So I'm pretty sure you're gonna see this kind of design, aero design, in more GT3 cars in the future, in the near future. So, for example, the new Audi Evo 2, the new Audi R8 Evo 2, if you have seen already some of the technical articles about it, they say that it has a bigger rear wing and kind of smaller rear diffuser, which again shows that they are trying, to generate a more stable car that is not as nervous from aerodynamic pitch sensitivity.